Welcome to Conversations Live. For more than a decade, we've brought you the best in books, entertainment, and current events. When the movers and shakers of the world have something to say to you, they say it to us first. Now, here's your host, Cyrus Webb.
And welcome back, everyone, to Conversations Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. Whether you're tuning in on the radio dial in Mississippi at WYAD 94.1 FM, we welcome you. Also, those joining us through our online affiliates around the world, we're glad to have all of you with us as well. We're excited to welcome Ken Diezl to our program today. He's not only a fitness model and trainer, but an individual who's been able to not only recognize his own personal greatness, but also help other people to be able to discover theirs as well. If you're just not hearing about Ken, we'll tell you at the end of our segment how you all can stay connected with him. But Ken, hello to you and welcome to the program, man.
Hey, sir. How's it going?
Hey, going really well, man. Really appreciate you taking out the time. You know, as I said, people have gotten to know you not only, of course, as a fitness model, but also as a trainer themselves, which means you've been able to not only, of course, set your own goals and reach them, Ken, but also to help other people to be able to do that too. I mean, I want to talk about the latter part first. I mean, what has it been like for you to not only to be an example to other people as to what's possible, but then to be able to kind of take them under your wing and kind of help them get to where they want to be in life?
Man, one thing about me is I love to see other people do good. I love to see other people do better. So fitness is one of those things where you can touch a lot of lives because, there's a lot of, with the food we eat, there's a lot of people that are overweight. There's a lot of people that want to change and just need that extra push for someone like me who wants to see them do better.
Right. And so that brings up this question, Ken, because unfortunately we live in a world that we know not everybody wants to see everybody succeed. Not everybody wants to see everybody do better. I mean, have you always been an individual who's been able to look past yourself and realize that, that you could be able to make an impact by being able to help others along the way?
Yes, sir. I've always been like that. I've always been, I've always put myself to the back burner, to see other people do good. It's just a trait that I've grown to have and something I've tried to get rid of in the past, but it's just me. So I let it flow. I let it go how it goes.
Yeah, and I think that's the great thing. So let's go back to you then, Ken. I mean, I think, for anyone to be able to help anyone, I mean, they have had to not only, of course, experience things themselves, but also, of course, to be able to set their own goals and to be able to achieve those goals and show other people what's possible. Have you always known that you were going to be one of those guys who could not only say, I'm going to do something, but actually go out and do it?
Well, yes, man, growing up being the oldest of four, I've always had to take initiative. I've always had to be the one, who set the ground rules and get stuff done. So it was a trait that I've always carried since I can remember, and it's something that I take pride in.
Yeah. And now, of course, you've been able to not only, of course, to do this for yourself, as I mentioned, Ken, but also now to be an example for other people, too. I mean, one of the things I mentioned this to you before we went on here that stops a lot of people is the fear, and especially in the world we live in today where there's so many people who are looking at us, who are judging us. How have you not allowed that to be able to stop you when it comes to achieving your own goals?
Well, like I've always told people, man, sometimes failure is a part of the process. Sometimes you can't learn without failing at something. Sometimes, for me, failure is just a learning tool that I take to do better the next time. So I try to tell people like, hey, you're not going to get it right every time, but if you stay consistent, you can keep doing it, eventually you'll get it right.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, and I think that's a great reminder for all of us. I want to say for those who are just tuning in, either on the radio side or online, you're listening to Conversations Live. We're excited to welcome Ken Diezl to our program today. He's not only a fitness model and trainer, but an individual who's been able to, as I just said, to be able to set goals for himself, and then, of course, to be able to share those goals with all of us, as well as the results. And one of the ways you've been able to do that, Ken, is through Instagram, one of the social media platforms out there. I mean, what has that been like for you, to be able to not only to show the people around you what's possible, but now to be able to use the internet to be able to touch the world that way too?
Well, man, I've had the luxuries of being able to travel all over the world, and Instagram is actually a better tool. It seems like is an easier way to contact people. People contact you, ask you a lot of questions about fitness. I feel like sometimes people can look at you when you have muscle and you look kind of intimidating, so people are less likely to approach you and ask you questions. But it seems like through Instagram and social media, people will touch base with you a lot easier. So I love the fact that people, hit me up and ask me questions about fitness, and I happily answer pretty much everybody who contacts me.
Yeah. So for you, I mean, when it comes to that platform, I mean, I think, the other thing about it is, and I think, everyone can kind of, because these days, when, there are so many people out there that, like we said earlier, Ken, they're not so willing to help. They're not people who want to see other people succeed. I mean, do you think that is one of the things that kind of sets you apart from some of the other trainers out there?
I actually do, because like I said, I genuinely love to see people grow. Like it's, I take it as, part of my daily routine to encourage people and to encourage others to, keep going and keep fighting. Don't let, an injury stop you, or don't let someone who has negative ways of thinking stop you. Just keep going, because, it's only you can stop you, nobody else.
Right. Well, that goes to something else I mentioned to you before we went on the air here, Ken. I mean, and that's competition, and we normally don't talk about competition per se on this program, but one of the things that I realized and I want to ask you about is, do you kind of see yourself as your own competition, and does that kind of help you to kind of have that tunnel vision to not being so quick to compare yourself to other people, but also just realize the importance of just being the best you that you can be?
Absolutely. Like, I tell guys all the time, like, if I see a guy and, he's, tight waist, nice muscles, nice fit, it encourages me. I'm not that type of guy that's going to look down on him and say, oh man, he think he's all that, because, that's part of it. Part of fitness is competition, but you want it to be good competition. You don't want it to be, where you negatively think of other people. It should just encourage you and help you go harder and do better in the gym. That's how I take it.
Right. And I think that's it. I had a guest come on this program a few years ago, again, and one of the things that he said, and it really struck me, and I remembered it, even over the years, and next time he's on the program, I have to remind him that, he was the one who kind of told me this. He said, for him, he had to discover what his why was. And that is what kind of helped him to change the way that he went working out himself, change the way he approached his clients, was discovering what his why is. I mean, when did you discover what your why was?
I'd say, it was probably around 2014. I was in Afghanistan, and I had an ex-bodybuilder, big guy, 6'4", 275 pounds. Me, I'm 6'2", 250 pounds. So I'm like, in the gym, and he comes up to me, and he said, hey, and mind you, I never met this man until this day. And he was like, hey, you got what it takes. And, out of all the time that I've been working out, I've never had people, even people close to me, never came up to me and told me that. It took this stranger to come to me and like, hey, man, you definitely have what it takes. So from then on, I started telling myself that every day. Hey, you got what it takes, man. This is your calling. This is, I was a basketball player growing up, and I actually got to play college ball, and it was one of those things where I kind of lost the love for it and found the love in bodybuilding. So I feel like this is my this is my niche. This is where I should be.
Right. Ken, do you find that because you've been able to kind of travel and not being kind of confined to one place? Because I think this is the other snag that a lot of people kind of get caught up in, is that they look at where they are and they think that's the extent to how far they can go. Do you think because you have been able to travel and been able to kind of see the world and realize what's out there, that that's kind of helped you to widen your view of what's possible for you?
Sir, yes, sir, absolutely. That definitely helped. It, because before, sometimes, when we come up in life, when we see only a certain thing, that's all we can imagine. We can't imagine going to see the crazy islands that we see on TV and social media. But when you actually get to see those things firsthand, it gives you a different drive in life. It gives you a different mindset. It gives you a different motivation. Like, it makes you actually strive to accomplish those goals. So, yeah, I would definitely say so.
Right. And when it comes to goal setting, I mean, talk to us about what kind of went first for you. I mean, there you were, you mentioned in Afghanistan. So the weights and the bodybuilding was a priority for you then. Was the modeling just a natural progression for you?
Well, modeling actually, it was something that I actually didn't think about in the beginning because, I was this skinny guy who just wanted to get big, So once I got big, I said, hey, then I started noticing people like Terry Crews and how, these guys came up, on being, muscular, looking good, being able to dress and, things like that. So I said, hey, you know what? I'll try to follow, some of these guys' footsteps, and follow their path a little bit and see how it goes for me. And then it just started clicking. People started hitting me up and, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? So I went with it, man.
Right. I want to go back to kind of how we began the conversation, Ken, and that is to talk about the people you've been able to encourage. And, again, you've had the luxury of being able to do it in person, as you mentioned, but also now thanks to the Internet. I mean, I think, the other thing about that is that, you are a living example as to what is possible. Is that also what you kind of want to help other people to realize, whether they're hitting you up online or being able to actually work with you in the training capacity, that, that they can be the best of themselves if they're willing to do the work?
Yes, sir. It's all about being consistent. It's all about being consistent. That's what my coaches and my peers and the people I've have gained my knowledge from is just to stay consistent. As long as if you keep doing something, eventually you're going to become great at it. And even like I said, along the way, if you fail, you just learn from those mistakes. You just learn from those failures. I failed a couple of times. I've torn muscles. I've almost had a heart attack. I've sustained, certain injuries that could have made me stop bodybuilding, but I just stayed consistent, learned from the mistakes, and fine-tuned my training and got better. And I tell everybody, like, you can get better. You can be great at whatever it is you want to be great at as long as you stay consistent.
Right. One of the things that I have struggled with myself, Ken, I've talked about on this program, and because I've had audience members who have talked to me about this, as well as guests as well, is the struggle we have of trying to appreciate where we are and what we've accomplished, but also looking ahead and what we want to do. How do you balance it? How do you balance, looking at where you are, and what you've been able to do, but realizing that your best days are still ahead of you?
Man, I just try to take it one day at a time. I try not to overthink because I'm a very deep overthinker, and it can get kind of stressful. But, I just try to take it one day at a time, one training session at a time, one conversation at a time. I have guys that encourage me every day, whether it be through words or social media, like they hit me up every day and be like, hey, you are great. Keep going. And I just take all of this stuff in, but I try not to, I try to stay humble, stay focused, like you said earlier, keep that tunnel vision, stay focused, keep looking straight, and not let some of the things that can get to you. If, in this industry, you could easily, somebody hit you up and say, hey, I want you to do this for this magazine. And then some people get the big head easily. And for me, I'm actually completely backwards. Every time somebody praises me, it just tells me in my head, hey, you need to go harder because you can get better. If they praise you now, just imagine what they're going to do here a couple months from now. That's how I take it.
Well, who do you think helped to instill that in you, Ken? Because that is not, I think it's safe to say, the norm, of people, in the industry that you're in. I mean, who were some of the people that helped to instill those core values in you, the importance of, I know for me it was my grandmother and my stepfather who really kind of showed, just because you're gifted doesn't mean you're any better than anyone else, everyone has their own gifts, and that I kind of, walked in that in my life. I mean, who were some of those people that kind of instilled that in you?
Well, I say, I learned a lot when I joined the military. I've working overseas, I've met a lot of people. And there was one guy in particular. It was funny. I was in Kuwait, and I was sitting in a guard shack, and I met another stranger, and we had like a 2 or 3 hour conversation. And, he told me his life story, and, he told me how great he was and how good he was at playing basketball and football. But, it was one of those things where he wasn't humble. He was cocky. He was arrogant. And, every time, he would get to the level he thought that he was about to take off, he would crumble, And I said, that's just how it works sometimes. If you don't stay humble, the great can turn into bad instantly, So that's why I try to stay focused, keep my mentality to a point where I never let myself think that I'm better or, get on a high horse.
Since you've kind of been on this journey from going from bodybuilding to, being, a fitness model and a trainer, how has your idea of success changed, Ken? I mean, what does success look like for you now?
Man, for me, success is not how much money you have, not having a big old house, not having the fanciest car. To me, if you're doing what you want to do and you're happy, you're successful to me. That's how I look at it. You know, you don't have to. It doesn't have to bring all the riches, but if you're happy, that's success. It's all about being happy for me. I just want to be happy, comfortable, and happy. That's all I want to do. And fitness does that for me.
And I think that's it. And I'm so glad you said that, because I think, there's somebody out there that needed to hear that, Ken, because I think, not only, and I think this is the danger of the world that we live in today, is that, a lot of times it's not so much us, but people around us who would try to shape, what success should look like for you, or where you should be in your life at this particular age, or, you're this particular place. And I think the important thing, as you just said, for our audience to realize that it really is about you. Nobody can walk this journey but you. So it's up to you to be able to set that for yourself, and to have, as we were saying earlier, have that tunnel vision so that you're not distracted, and also you don't give up on yourself. I asked you about success, so I have to ask you this question. Has your idea of what failure is, has that changed for you along this journey too, Ken?
Yes, I would have to say yes, because like I said, I don't look at failure as a bad thing. To me, failure has to be a part of your process. It has to be. Because, if everybody was good at everything they did all the time, how could you learn? There's no way of learning, if you don't fail. So I would definitely say so.
Yeah, and I think that's it, man. And I think that's the great reminder for all of us, too, to remember, just because we may have set a goal for ourselves at the beginning of the year, if you haven't achieved that goal, it doesn't mean that you failed. Every day is a new opportunity, as we were talking about here. It's kind of like a reset, so you can hit that reset and be able to start today. So with that being said, I asked you about staying present, kids. So I have to ask you, what is next for you? As you kind of look ahead at your next goals, you've been able to achieve a lot already. What is the next thing that Ken Diezl would like to do?
Well, I'm actually, interested in getting into acting. Like that was one of my things that I wanted to do. I didn't think it would happen as fast, but it seems as if it may happen quicker than I thought. And I just, like I said, I just want to take it one day at a time, not let these things overwhelm me, because it can get overwhelming. When getting 50 emails, everybody's calling, hey, I want you here, I want you to do this. So yeah, acting would be when I say the next goal, another song that I want to step over.
All right. So it's something for us to look forward to. Again, everyone, Ken Diezl has been our guest. Great conversation with Ken. We've been talking with him not only about his experience as a fitness model and trainer, but also what it's been like for him in life to be able to not only to learn lessons himself, to share those lessons with his clients, but also by extension with all of us, thanks to social media. We've also talked to him not only about what it's been like for him to set goals for himself, but the importance of being able to stay focused on what he wants, and, of course, to be an example for other people as well. So, Ken, let our audience know, how can they stay connected with you, man, and kind of keep up with what's next for you?
Well, yes, I do everything through my Instagram, so if you want to, you can follow me at Ken Diezl _fit. It would be KenDiezl _fit. And email is ken.diezl.fit@gmail. Those are my 2 point of contacts.
All right. Well, Ken, man, congratulations to you again. Thank you so much for the time, man, and looking forward to having you back on the show again.
Man, that was my appreciation.
All right. And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Conversations Live. If you all came in late, you missed part of the conversation with Ken, don't worry. Thanks to our online friends, you all can catch the replay right after we go off the air. The link is already available through our social media sites. So head over to Facebook.com/Cyrus Webb or go over to Twitter.com/Cyrus Webb. If you click on the link there, you can listen to the show completely for free and share it with your friends from there too. Until next time, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Make sure you take out time to enjoy some good music as well as a great book. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Live. You all make it a great one.